Welcome back to Wheels Through Time Museum. We're talking more rare American racing motorcycles today. We're in the TT Racing exhibit highlighting Peashooter motorcycles. Chris and I have just got down this 1928 short track speedway machine. Excellent history behind this bike we're going to share with you momentarily and get the bike fired up for you to hear. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about the rare machines inside the racing exhibit here, particularly the Peashooter motorcycles. Now, Peashooter started in 1926, kind of a nickname given to the Harley Davidson small displacement singles, really from the sound of the engine, pop, 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 pop. Single cylinder, 350 cc's. Some of them were actually produced in 500 cc versions, and ultra rare today to see the Peashooters. They were lower production machines, racing examples, even more so rare. So today I wanted to highlight a few of the bikes that we've got here in the exhibit. One of my absolute favorite motorcycles in the museum period is this 1926 first year Peashooter. It's what we call an S model Peashooter. 18 of these bikes produced in 1926, so ultra rare. This is number 9 out of those 18 produced. There's probably not more than a handful of these motorcycles left. This bike is virtually in original condition and is ready to run here at the museum. We had a chance to get this bike fired up, or excuse me, get this bike finished up. It was missing a front wheel, a chain, and a few foot pegs, a front exhaust pipe. We got really everything put back together as it should be, and it's been on display here for about a year at the museum. So incredibly happy to have this bike back out on the floor for y'all to see. Up above, 1932 model SA Peashooter. Okay, so this machine is really one of the more storied bikes inside of the museum, raced by Joe Petrali, HD's kind of head go-to guy in the race department in the 1930s. The early 1930s. This bike is serial number 1. It's the first one off the line from 32 out of kind of an unknown amount produced. So very rare machine, and hope to have this bike finished up for you guys to come check out sometime this summer. So as we kind of move on this way, 2 more very rare models, really little known models. Down below is the S-bar Peashooter. The S-bar is kind of a nickname for it, but it gets its name from this S-shaped down tube here. What it does is pulls that front wheel way in close to the motor. It's considerably shorter wheelbase machine. What you notice too, this bike's actually equipped with a transmission here. So this is a 3-speed example. I should have mentioned to you earlier, most all of the Peashooter racing bikes, single speed, no brakes, no clutch. They're direct drive bikes. When that motor is running, the wheel is spinning. Up above, one of just 3 known examples. This is a 500cc CA. So what you notice here right off the bat is this big notch in the gas tank. And at this time, the 500cc racing class was really becoming quite competitive. Harley Davidson bumped up their 350cc engine. I think the first year was 1929. This is a 1930 model. So longer stroke, taller cylinder. They needed to make room for that taller cylinder, so they had special gas tanks and also a special frame. Like I said, this is just one of just a handful known. I think there's 3 of them known today, and it's in perfect running order. Was restored by Dale about maybe 15 years ago. So, and then on to the 34 Harley Davidson Peashooter. The Harley 34 model CAC Speedway motorcycle. Chris, you got a favorite out of all these bikes?
Yeah, it would have to be the 34. And like you said, the CAC, that was Harley's first year production, only year production of a Speedway bike, and they made 20 of these. And the reason it's my favorite is it really just has a look that's all its own compared to all the rest of them. It just it speaks to me in that way. But also because there's the picture there of Harry Molenaar riding this bike, and he raced this for a number of years. And Harry Molenaar, you guys have probably heard that name mentioned a lot. There's so many bikes in the museum that have a connection with Harry Molenaar, and just to see him, slinging the back end of this bike sideways and just imagining what this thing would sound like on the track, it makes it definitely one of my favorites.
Well, hopefully one of these days here soon we'll get it running. Guys, Harry Molenaar was a Harley dealer in Hammond, Indiana, really tight with the factory, got a lot of experimental stuff, incredibly rare motorcycles here at the museum, owned by Harry, have all made their way back to Wheels Through Time in one way or another. The CAC, this is number 10 out of less than 20 machines produced. So incredible bike. Again, no brakes, no clutch. It's all go, made to run on alcohol, probably 16-to-1 compression, if you can believe that. So one of these days here, we'll have the opportunity to get this thing fired up and going, and maybe even get to take it around the track a couple times. So guys, on to the 28. This bike came out of Abilene, Texas about 2 years ago. We actually purchased a large inventory of Harley-Davidson parts and basket case motorcycles from Kent's Harley-Davidson. Now, this bike originally was raced out of Les Meyer's Harley-Davidson dealership in Wichita Falls, Texas. Sometime in the 60s, Meyer sold his entire inventory to Kent and there in Abilene. The bike was moved and really put in storage, missing a few pieces here and there. So last year we had an opportunity, put a new front tire on it, put on the fuel line, grabbed a primary chain for it, and actually found a new throttle spiral here so we can work the throttle. Other than that, I disassembled the engine. The engine was actually stuck. So I disassembled the motor, which was quite a task, just getting the cylinder freed up off of the piston. Really took everything apart, flushed it. The bottom end was as good as new. The rings were stuck on the piston, so a couple hours of picking with some penetrating oil and a pick. Got the rings freed up and bolted in the same piston that came out of it. New float for the carburetor, and a few kicks later, we had this thing fire up and going. So we put the bike up last year, ran it for about a month, decided to drain the fluids and put it up. We're hoping that this bike is going to be as simple as gas and go. We've got oil in it. Mag had hot spark. We got air in the tires. And as they say, it ran when parked. So, Chris, let's get this thing fired up and see what she sounds like. So, looking at the machine, guys, again, this is what we call one of those S-bar type of frames. It's got the short wheelbase. Now this thing's been all chopped and modified, and what they've done is shorten up the gas tank, lowered the seat position, reinforced the frame here. No brakes on this bike. So again, it's a 3-speed transmission, and they've got the modified foot peg here. Normally your brake pedal would sit out this way. Well, these guys are racing, and brakes, all they do is slow you down. So pull the brake, lighter machine, faster machine. So guys, the motor on this one is another really trick setup. This is what we call the dual poured head. It's actually got 2 exhaust pipes. Started in 1928. This motor initially began as a 350, and it's been stroked to a 500 cc to compete in the larger class. On top of that, it's got this ultra rare linkered barrel racing carburetor. These carburetors were made for alcohol and for gasoline. This one here, we're running on gas today. So yeah, hopefully we can get this thing choked a couple times and she fires up and goes. So I'm gonna take it off the stand here. All right. No fuel shut off. Let's give it a couple kicks. Oh, that's a good sign. Everything's exposed. Push rods, valves, rockers, valve springs, all exposed, had to be oiled by hand. There you have it, guys. A little more dialing in, and this thing will be ready for the racetrack. Drive for history, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be talking more rare motorcycles here at Wheels Through Time, bringing you all sorts of new shows about the people, the places, and the bikes that make Wheels Through Time the museum that runs. If you're digging what you see, make sure you check out wheelsthroughtime.com/donate and make a contribution today. Thanks for help fueling the museum that runs.